There is one exercise that reversed the genetic aging fingerprint in human muscle, and most seniors have never tried it. In 2007, researchers at McMaster University and the Buck Institute for Age Research took 25 healthy older adults, average age 70, and put them on a simple twice-weekly program for 6 months. Before the program, these adults were 59% weaker than younger controls. After, only 38% weaker. That's a roughly 50% improvement in strength. But here's the part that made headlines around the world. When they looked at the muscle tissue at the molecular level, 596 genes that had been changed by aging were substantially reversed, back to levels resembling younger adults. And here's what your doctor won't tell you. This wasn't running. It wasn't walking. It wasn't stretching or yoga or swimming. It was resistance training, lifting weights. And a 2024 study of nearly 5,000 Americans found that just 90 minutes per week of strength training was associated with 3.9 years less biological aging. Not looking younger, being younger at the cellular level. And I'm about to reveal 6 ways this one exercise reverses aging, ranked from surprising to life-changing. The number one discovery on this list didn't just slow aging, it stopped your brain from shrinking. A user on Reddit's r/over60 said it as plainly as any scientist could. Old age is not for the weak. Sarcopenia is real. Strength training is the only thing that slows it down. And the data confirms what they felt. Stanford Lifestyle Medicine reports that adults lose 7 to 8% of their muscle mass every decade in their 70s, and 11 to 12% of their muscle strength. By age 80, you may have lost 35 to 40% of the muscle you had at 20. Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, founder of muscle-centric medicine, put it bluntly. Age-related muscle loss, sarcopenia, is one of the strongest predictors of frailty, disability, and early death. But this decline isn't caused by age. It's caused by inactivity. But here's what 99% of seniors don't know. It's not too late. And the 6 discoveries I'm about to share prove it. Now let's start with number 6. Number 6. Resistance training cuts your fall risk by up to a third. This isn't about building beach muscles. It's about staying alive. In 2023, 41,400 older Americans died from falls. That's 1 in every 56 deaths among adults 65 and older. And the fall death rate for people aged 65 to 74 has increased more than 70% in the past 20 years. A Cochrane review, the gold standard in medical evidence, analyzed 108 trials covering 23,407 participants and found that exercise programs combining balance, functional movement, and resistance training reduced the rate of falls by 34%. One person on r/AskOldPeople described the problem before they started training. They couldn't get up off the floor without help. Sound familiar? That's exactly the physical decline this one exercise reverses. But the next discovery goes deeper than your muscles, all the way to your blood pressure. Number 5. Resistance training lowers your blood pressure as much as some medications. Though a meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials found that moderate intensity resistance training, working at 60 to 80% of your maximum, reduced systolic blood pressure by about 7 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by about 3.6 millimeters of mercury in adults aged 60 and older. To be fair, these effects were strongest in people who already had elevated blood pressure, and the studies were heterogeneous, but a 7-point drop in systolic pressure is clinically meaningful. That's the kind of change doctors celebrate. Critical warning, if you're on blood pressure medication, resistance training is generally safe and actually helps, but your doctor may need to adjust your dose over time as your pressure improves with training. Dizziness or lightheadedness after a workout is a signal to check in with your physician. But the next discovery is where the science gets truly stunning. Number 4. Resistance training makes your cells biologically younger. The Tucker and Bates study I mentioned earlier used data from nearly 5,000 Americans in the nationally representative NHANES survey. They measured telomere length, the protective caps on your chromosomes that shorten as you age. Adults who did 90 minutes of strength training per week had telomeres equivalent to someone 3.9 years younger. And the relationship was dose-dependent. More training, younger cells. To be fair, this was a cross-sectional study. It can't prove causation, and the training data was self-reported. But a 2025 review from Tohoku University, published in the journal Aging, pulled together human and animal evidence showing that structured exercise can actually reverse epigenetic aging clocks, the biological clocks embedded in your DNA. In one study, just 8 weeks of combined training in sedentary older women produced a significant decrease in epigenetic age. An 81-year-old on Reddit's r/fit over65 wrote, "Low weight, slow motion, high reps has totally worked for me since I hit my 70s. I'm 81 now. Here's the protocol. Aim for 2 to 3 sessions per week, 30 to 60 minutes each." A meta-analysis of 16 studies covering roughly 480,000 participants found that 30 to 60 minutes per week of muscle-strengthening exercise increased life expectancy by 10 to 17%. Now, everything I've shown you so far, those are the good reasons to start. But the next 2 discoveries are in a completely different category. They don't just slow aging, they reverse damage that was already done. Number 3, resistance training reversed 596 age-related gene changes in just 6 months. This is the McMaster study from the opening, and it deserves its own moment. Those 596 genes weren't just slightly altered. Their expression pattern, the way they were turned on or off, had shifted with age to resemble that of older, weaker muscle. After 6 months of twice-weekly resistance training, most of those genes reversed back to levels that looked like younger muscle tissue. And a 2025 study confirmed this at even deeper level. 12 weeks of resistance training in older men reduced expression of cellular senescence pathways. Senescence is one of the hallmarks of aging. It's when your cells stop dividing and start pumping out inflammatory signals. Resistance training quieted those signals. Dr. Nathan Lebrasseur, director of the Kogod Center on Aging at Mayo Clinic, said it plainly. Without question, exercise is the most powerful intervention to address muscle loss, whether it occurs in the context of advancing age or debilitating chronic or acute diseases. A 60-year-old on our workout described what this reversal feels like in real life. "My legs are much stronger, the knee pain has vanished, and I can climb flights of stairs without getting winded. I strongly recommend this approach." Critical warning: if you're taking a statin for cholesterol, medications like Lipitor or Crestor, and you experience unusual muscle pain, weakness, or dark urine when you begin strength training, stop and call your doctor. Statins can interact with exercise to cause muscle inflammation. It's not common, but it's real. Let your prescribing doctor know you're starting a program. And here's what makes the top 2 different from everything else on this list. A study of over 46,000 people in the UK Biobank found that elevated muscle strength was linked to a 13% reduction in the risk of ending healthy longevity, meaning cancer, heart attack, diabetes, stroke, or death. Muscle strength was more protective than cardiorespiratory fitness alone. Let that sink in. Number 2, the benefits last years after you stop. This is what stunned the research community. The LISA study, a randomized controlled trial in Denmark, took 451 adults, average age 67, and put them through 1 year of heavy resistance training. Then they followed them for 4 more years. The resistance training group maintained their leg strength 4 full years later. The control groups lost strength. 1 year of investment, 4 years of protection, published in BMJ Open Sport and Exercise Medicine. Dr. Stuart Phillips at McMaster University, 600 publications, 70,000 career citations, calls this money in the bank. In a podcast with the Alliance for Aging Research, he said, "It's an investment in the future you. A small difference now could be the reason you live independently 5 or 6 years longer." A 75-year-old on r/AskOldPeople wrote, 75 and still going strong. I strength train, hike, backpack, and bicycle. If I get even the slightest strain, I immediately back off, so it never turns into a big one. Critical warning: if you have kidney disease, even early stage, do not increase your protein intake without consulting your doctor first. A 2024 JAMA internal medicine study confirmed that high protein accelerates kidney decline in people with existing kidney problems, and a separate 2025 UK Biobank study of over 19,000 adults found that very high protein intake, above 1.8 grams per kilogram per day, was linked to 36% higher cardiovascular risk in adults over 55. The goal is optimal protein, not maximum protein. And now, the number one way resistance training reverses aging. Number 1, resistance training protects your brain from shrinking. A 2025 randomized controlled trial took 44 adults aged 55 and older who had mild cognitive impairment, the stage before dementia, and assigned half to twice weekly resistance training for 6 months. The training group maintained hippocampal volume and improved verbal memory. The control group? Their brains shrank. I should mention, this was a small study, 44 participants, and the subjects already had mild cognitive impairment. Individual results will vary. But AARP reported an even more dramatic finding. For every 1-point increase in muscle strength, the risk of Alzheimer's dropped by 43%. Dr. Roger Fielding from the USDA Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging at Tufts University. I summarized it for NIH. The most robust type of exercise training to prevent the loss of muscle strength and the loss of muscle mass is strength training. Here's the protocol. Start with 2 sessions per week. Chair squats, wall push-ups, resistance bands, light dumbbells. If you have osteoporosis, work with a physical therapist first. Avoid heavy barbell loading without guidance. Progress slowly. An 81-year-old's mother on r/fitover65 has been lifting consistently for 30 years, using just 10 to 12-pound weights. Consistency beats intensity. Remember that Reddit user who said old age is not for the weak, sarcopenia is real? They were right. But the McMaster study proved something even more important. Aging at the molecular level is not permanent. 596 genes reversed, cells made younger, brains protected, falls prevented. And all of it from the one exercise most seniors have never tried. Your muscles aren't just for movement. They're the organ of longevity. And it's not too late to save them. Comment below which discovery surprised you most. What's your biggest strength challenge right now? Share this with someone over 60 who needs to see it.